Okay, this is excitement, not fear. Hi guys, I'm back with another video. I'm just coming here to introduce some 2026 concepts to you guys, and just get us a little warmed up into what we should be striving for in 2026. Maybe some things that may challenge us that we'll be healing and growing through. If you guys didn't know, I posted an article really dropping off some powerful downloads sans divination about 2026. So I'm going to be pulling that up here on the screen, and I'm just going to be going through it, reviewing some things that pop out to me and just giving some additional tea on those messages. But before I get started, make sure if you are enjoying this content that I'm putting out already in 2026 that you are subscribed to my channel, that you're engaging and liking videos, and also visit my posts, comment your favorite videos so far on this YouTube page, or if you're on Facebook, comment something that you like even from the past, and let me know something that you'd like to see from me in 2026. Before I get too far into the essay, or whichever you want to call it, before I get too far into that, I just wanted to kind of give you guys some messages that came through as I was preparing to make this video. I talked about a lot of stuff in 2025. 2025 was an interesting year for me because I took 4 months off of all social media. I logged off and I just lived in my real life. As I've stated many times, it challenged me, but it really gave me the tools I needed to redirect my energy, reset my focus, and prepare for huge breakthroughs that I made in 2025. I wanted to remind you of some of the things that I talked about last year. You still need to flow over force in 2026. That is one of the biggest medicines that is going to help us this year. In 2026, we were introduced to Saturn and Pisces. I know in tropical or whatever, they're saying Saturn is in Aries, but honey, I promise when Saturn gets in Aries, you gonna know. You gonna know. Okay? Because I don't know, we might be at war or something. I don't know. But that's a conversation for another time. We're not even there yet. But right now, the biggest message that came through is a lot of times we say follow our intuition, or follow your intuition. We think sometimes that following your intuition is this big old to do. And following your intuition, it really starts with these small acts of listening to your body, listening to those nudges, listening to those emotions that are quietly whispering to you, I'm tired, I don't feel like it today, I'm hungry. Before I even made this video, I was so hungry, and I knew if I just sat down and ate, it might put me behind 30 or 45 minutes, of the scheduled time that I have to record. I also knew if I didn't take that time block to eat, I was going to suffer for it in the long run. By me taking out that time to do an act of self-care, it then allowed me to be in a better predicament to make this content. That may not be the most woo-woo example of following your intuition, but it is an example of flowing instead of forcing. Forcing myself to sit in front of a camera and make content when I'm starving is not okay. Oftentimes when we get to New Year's, we think that everything is changing. We think that suddenly we have to start from scratch and, oh, what's the recipe for this year? What's the recipe for this year? I really, really want you to get into the habit in your spiritual practice, in your spiritual journey, in your life, of moving forward, learning how to take the next step and how to progress versus thinking that everything is from scratch. Everything is brand new. Everything requires a new recipe, because that's simply not true. Sometimes you've already been exposed to new things and new parts of you and new lessons and new blessings incrementally. It's up to you to implement those things you've already been exposed to on a grander scale. And learning how to flow over force is one of those lessons. We've already been exposed to it. And so this year is just up to us to choose the flow. Okay? Flow is an option. All right? Force is too. It's up to you to lean as much as you can into that flow instead of the option that says, I gotta do it. I gotta do it now. I gotta do it like this. I gotta force my way through. I gotta force the connection. I have to force the job to work for me. I have to force the opportunity. No, take a moment to pause. Okay, pausing is so important this year, guys. Take a moment to pause. Sit with the divine feminine. Sit with the softest parts of you. Sit with the discomfort long enough to let it be a guide and not a hindrance. Okay? We still need to watch our mouths, and some of us still need to shut up in 2026. Okay, I have a whole video where I'm unpacking Jupiter and Gemini, a transit that started in, I believe, June of 2025, and we got a little break from this energy and for the month of November, where we were introduced to Jupiter and Cancer, which will reinstate itself at towards the end of June. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I have a whole video just saying this Jupiter and Gemini transit that we've been experiencing for almost a full year now has really shown me personally, we need to be more open-minded. There's more than one way to skin a cat. We need to be teachable, because there's always something that we can learn, something we can do better. And we just don't know everything, and we can definitely get into a place in our journeys, whether that's in career, in love, in friendship, whatever it is, we can get into these spaces where we think we've been there, done that, tried everything, know everything. And really, it's kind of just that we're scared to be the beginner again. We're scared to step into a space of not knowing, right? And so we have to embrace that fear of not knowing, of not having it all together, of not having all the answers, by being open and being teachable. But we also have to still remain discerning. And sometimes when you open yourself up to new things, new experiences, new people, you kind of lose some of that discernment, right? Because it's new. The thing about discernment is that once you know, you can't not know. So just keep that with you this year, that just because you didn't know one time doesn't mean you don't have to know every single time. And on top of that, there's that flow over force message. There is that following your intuition. There's always those gentle nudges. There's always spirit speaking. There's always your body speaking. So even if it's not information being presented to you, even if it's not word of mouth, right? You can still test your experience against what your body says, what your spirit says, what your heart says. And that too is discernment. You guys still need to spend some time offline, okay? I kind of started off talking about that, but if you didn't take some little incremental breaks from being online last year, I feel bad for you. If you didn't take any time offline, I feel bad for you. Make sure in 2026 you plan out a way to intentionally step away from the internet. I have been watching some really cool content where I actually watched like 2 videos recently. One of the ladies was saying that she believes that people who are chronically online are going to become like a class of people that it's kind of like almost doing like free labor or something. Like, I can't really quote her verbatim, but she was just basically saying like people who are like always on the internet, like people who are always making content or always posting or always online, it's like they're gonna be this like little class of people who it's like they literally can't get off the internet because their life depends on it or something like that, to that effect. I may share or repost the video on my feed so that you guys can go watch and gather that information for yourself. But I definitely agree, you know, and I can see us moving in that direction because let's be real, we already have people who are chronically online and they can't just do an activity for 30 minutes without their phone, you know? And so guys, we have to hold grace for ourselves and realize we lived through a pandemic, a quarantine where everything went online. But guess what? We're not in that space anymore. We've come out of that space gradually, and yes, there's still remnants of it that I believe will be permanent, you know? Some things are never going to go back to how they used to be. And that's not necessarily bad, but there are things that we can actively see is a problem or is toxic, and we can make adjustments right now. So I am once again calling out to you right here at the beginning of 2026, asking you, please plan as you're making your vision boards, your goals, all of that stuff. Make sure that you also are including intentional time, even if it is just 1 week, if it's one day, 24 hours. Okay, make sure you have at least one moment this year where you just are completely offline. And I promise you, that moment is going to give you so much perspective, so many downloads, so much grounding that you can't get by watching YouTube, that you can't get by being on somebody's Zoom call or Zoom course or Zoom class or whatever it is, that you can't get by being on somebody's live, that you can't get being on a Twitch chat or whatever it is. Okay, like there's real opportunities, real relationships, real communities waiting for you. But first, you have to be present. Another thing that I talked about in 2025 is the need to just stop being so quick to label or diagnose every emotion that you feel. Um, you know, everything is not anxiety. Everything is not this instant, like, negative thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, in 2025, I channeled messages really focusing on the ability to just sit with discomfort. And likewise, sit with things that are comfortable too. Sit with things that make you feel good too. Because that's the only way that you'll actually be able to learn how to process your emotions correctly, learn how to trust yourself, and learn how to flow is by sitting with feelings. And sometimes you're going to discover that, okay, this is fear. Okay, this is fear. Yeah. Okay, this is excitement, not fear. Like, you know, sometimes there's a difference, but what if your excitement was misinterpreted as fear or anxiety because you've never really sat with the beginnings of excitement before? You've only known excitement at its peak, but you didn't know excitement at its inception, you know? So maybe you're like, "Oh, I'm nervous about this. I'm nervous about it." But really, it's excitement, right? It's your spirit like literally jumping for joy. but you misinterpret it because you're so quick to label everything you feel. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, in 2026, please, please, please just give yourself a break. Just take a moment, sit with it, and unpack the emotion. And it doesn't have to be right away, but just let it kind of unfold. Kind of like the flowers in my hair. There's the center, and it may start as one layer, but at the center, there's that true emotion that's there. And sometimes we gotta just kind of let it bloom like a flower until we get to what's really, really there at the core. This is more so just me just doing some channeling, chit-chatting with you guys about 2026, and then we'll do some more cards in a different video. So this is a number 10 year, guys, and a big message and energy of the number 10 is like this message of maturity. It's kind of like been there, done that. You already know what it is. Spirit gave me this message as I was about to record. It's like, yes, you will need to protect yourself this year. But it's kind of like, all right, you already know this person doesn't like you. You already know these people are haters. You already know this person is jealous. You already know. You already know. You already know. So 2026 is the year to really act like you know. It's not an assumption, but it's just more of a been there, done that type of energy. It's kind of like you're carrying yourself with a little bit more maturity because you've already been through that situation before. And if it wasn't that exact situation, you've been through something similar. Instead of getting yourself worked up, stressed out, or lowering yourself down to waddle in the mud with the same old toxic cycles and patterns and people, the best protection work is elevation. This is a year where many of us are going to be making some final moves and decisions. It's a number 10 year. It's a simultaneous ending and beginning for many of us in the collective. And so there will be goodbyes. There will be changes that are meant to set us up for longevity, meaning like, maybe the next 10, 15, or 20 years of our lives, okay? This year is a big year. It's a really important year for us. In order for you to be set up for those long-term blessings, you can't waddle in the small stuff. You can't waddle in the pettiness, in the dirt, in the mud, because you really have to, and 555 on my clock as I'm saying this, you really have to just trust, like, I already see how that's gonna play out. Been there, done that. Let me skip over that part. I was watching some Ifa and voodoo readings of the year for 2026, and they said that this year Obatala was walking with us very heavily. They said something about 2026 being Obatala's year, and coincidentally I have on my all white today. So yeah, I'm definitely in that energy. And I would definitely encourage you guys to just wear white and embrace the color white as much as you can, not just because it is Obatala's year, but also because elevation is the best form of protection. And this is something that I discovered working with my ancestors over the years. Sometimes it wasn't, getting the black candle or the red candle or, doing any type of hex or protection spell. It was just simply getting that white candle, praying, maybe saying a few Bible verses, and just speaking life and positivity over myself and casting out things around me that were unclean. That is the highest form of protection that you can do. Removing yourself from even being on the same level as the BS. Okay, we're not on the same level. Just imagine for one moment, like you are way up in the clouds, okay? You're in the clouds and you're looking down at people who are hating on you, talking about you, gossiping, trying to go tit for tat, trying to get a reaction out of you. They're trying to tear you down, but they can't even reach you. So really, they look dumb. They look silly. So that's kind of the energy that we want to be in. It's not like that you're better. I mean, it kind of is like you're better than that. Along with that, it's even more so of that you know better. You're too mature. You've been through too much to get where you are in your journey, to lower yourself down to the foolishness, the pettiness, the drama. Okay. And so, in order to be in that elevated energy, right, it's going to take more than just white candles and wearing white. Yes, that is a beginning to being in that energy. But even more so, it's going to take energetic management. It's going to take self respect. It's going to take discipline. And it's going to take something that I received in a voodoo reading that I got on my birthday last year in 2025 called Suuru, which means ultimate peace and coolness. When you handle yourself in coolness, calmness, collectedness, when you are grounded in who you are, when you are grounded in everything you've been through, when you know yourself and you have a pretty good idea of your destiny too, you don't react so quickly to people who are out of alignment, to people who want to do anything they can to make sure that you fail. You don't react so quickly to people who see you in your whites and they want you to come and get dirty with them. To stay in that energy is really important that with this number 10 year, you prioritize relaxation, okay? Make sure that you do as many activities as possible on a regular basis that help you maintain calmness, coolness, groundedness, and collectiveness. Maybe that means this year you're doing a yoga practice consistently, or you are going get massages, or some type of physical thing that grounds you into that cool, calm, and collected state. And yes, meditation, and yes, prayer, and yes, spiritual workings as well. But I'm really just getting a message of like a physical activity that brings you completely and fully into balance with that peaceful energy. Okay, that's the energy that we really want to carry with us this year because there's so much power in the energy of relaxation. Don't think you have to rush this year, okay? This year carries a lot of energy. Um, and I'm just going to call it horsepower for now. It's the year of the horse. So things are going to, there may be a lot of people who are making you feel like you need to hurry up and do something. You may feel like that within your own self, but what you really need to understand again is back to that destiny message. What's for you is already for you. So you don't have to rush this year because you never had to rush at all. So, 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 so important to just honor that spirit of relaxation, honor that spirit of coolness, calmness, collectedness this year. Time has flown by. I wish I had more time to unpack more things. But let me see. So I'm going to put the image on the screen, and real quick, I'm just going to try to get through some last things that I wanted to say. In the article, I compared the energies of like Beyonce and Rihanna, and that wasn't to be shady. But it was just kind of like to say, you know, the way these people operate is polar opposite. So this isn't a year where, again, you have to force or fight your way through anything. You have to prove anything to anybody. This is a year where it's kind of like the work has already been done, and anything that happens is a result of, it's like it's been a long time coming. And so, you know, you're finally getting your karma, good or bad, for whatever, you know, whatever it is. It's a number 10 years. So there's this energy of things wrapping up, finalizing, you graduating from one point to the next. And it's a permanent graduation. Once you graduate from something, you can't go back. Once you graduate high school, you can't go back. You already got the diploma. Just kind of think about things like that, you know. Anytime you feel stuck this year, think about, okay, am I leaning too much into my Beyonce? Am I leaning too much into my Rihanna? I didn't say really too much bad stuff about Rihanna in here, but you know, you don't want to go through the whole year and not do nothing. You don't want to go through the whole year and waste this powerful energy chasing perfection or keeping everything behind the scenes. Eventually, yes, you do need to show up, you do need to show out, you do need to be active in some way that's visible to the collective, to others. But it's just that you don't have to be present all the time. Spirit said, don't be afraid of the dark this year. There will be a lot of light, there will be a lot of exposure and opportunities this year. But if you can't balance that out with quiet time, with time like a little hermit mode, you know, you're gonna suffer from burnout, and you may get kind of lost in overstimulation and a whirlwind of activity. What you should really focus on this year, that I put in this article, was aligned action versus busyness. Okay, so aligned action is using your passion, your intuition, listening to your body, listening to your emotions, tapping in with the divine feminine, and using all those softer qualities as a guide for how you're going to show up. Okay, that's aligned action. Versus busyness is leaning more into that masculine energy and just doing, going nonstop, being everywhere, burning yourself out, when really your intuition, your body, your divine feminine or your feminine ancestors are in the background begging you to slow down, begging you to take a chill pill, begging you to relax, begging you to take a break. I feel like this is like a review slash introduction type video. And I hope that this can just help you brainstorm and channel ideas and just figure out the energy that you want to have and that you want to maintain throughout 2026. Again, it is a flow over force energy. It is not totally denying yourself of showing up and acting and moving, because that's not what we want either. But it's just aligned action, it's intuitive action, it's using the soft feminine qualities, the emotions, the body, to direct the energy, the passion, the action that you want to take. It's a both and. So we want to make sure this year we're operating in a space of duality and we're not leaning too far into extremes, because that's kind of the type of energy that we're in. We're in an extreme type energy. It's already probably going to be an extreme year, meaning you may have extreme blessings, extreme breakthroughs. It's kind of like that finally type energy, because it's a number 10 year. If it's already going to be coming in hot, then we have to be able to balance that out with some softer, cooler, calmer energies. And it's our responsibility to bring that out of ourselves, into the collective, out of other people, and so that we can have a soft landing from all the activity, all the excitement, all the breakthroughs, and even the challenges that will present themselves in 2026.